competition was in full swing. Everyone was excited, as one of the archers had already completed 3 sets, and he had one last arrow left, which he was preparing to shoot at the target. This archer was named Yu, the youngest participant in the championship, a young talent and, incidentally, the main character of this story. While the commentators were praising our hero, he was preparing for the shot. Taking a deep breath, Yu drew his bow to the limit and released the arrow, which, flying along an unusual trajectory, pierced the center of the target. The spectators were excited, the commentators were impressed, and our hero's team, as well as he himself, were happy, because today, Yu became the youngest champion of the national competition. However, all this was in the past. Now the former archery genius stood apologizing to an angry old man who was his boss, and apparently, the old man was scolding our hero for poorly performed work, throwing documents at him. The young man began to pick up the scattered documents, and his right hand was noticeably shaking, indicating an injury. The manager, noticing the condition of his subordinate, allowed himself a caustic comment, suggesting that such an employee is not needed by them and is here only thanks to connections. Apparently, these words touched the main character deeply. Leaving the office, he sighed with relief, glad that another difficult day was behind him. When the guy returned home, he started watching an old recording of his triumph at the national championship. As it turned out, 10 years had passed since then. Nostalgia overwhelmed our hero. He began to recall that 10 years ago, archery was everything to him, but it required a lot of money, which he couldn't afford, as he lived with his grandmother, and the only way out for him was a scholarship. Year after year, arrow after arrow, he won awards and became a champion in competitions. Archery was his passion. He enjoyed this activity and believed in his happy future. But here, the memories abruptly end with a scene of a completely wrecked taxi, directly saying that Yu received his injury in an accident. The guy looked at his hand for a while, thinking that if it wasn't for the coach, he could have remained unemployed. Casting aside all these memories, the young man logged into the Tribe app to see what streams were currently on, and came across the fact that almost all streams now were about full immersion games, which have recently been at the peak of popularity. As it turned out, the advanced technologies of this world allowed a person to fully immerse themselves in the game reality, but for this, a special device is needed, a capsule, and games for them began to be called capsule games. The only trouble is that such devices cost a fortune, and ordinary office clerks like our hero can't afford them. Although Yu was still lucky, because he can at least follow the streams of players. Just now, some streamer was donated 100,000 won, given the task to kill a boar within 15 minutes, to which he replied that he would easily cope with this, and so releasing 3 arrows at once, none of which reached the target, thus causing laughter from the viewers. Apparently, the streamer became ashamed and began to make excuses. Watching this, the hero thought about how he envies them, because no matter what these streamers were like, crowds of people, including himself, are fans of them. Yu again remembered how in the past he was ready to give everything to achieve universal recognition, but such thoughts spoiled his mood, and he decided to go to sleep. The next day, our hero was again in his boss's office, who informed him that the company was undergoing restructuring, which Yu was likely to fall under. But if he quit now and voluntarily, they would pay him a decent compensation. After thinking a bit, the guy decided to resign voluntarily, which the boss seemed to be happy about and decided to cheer up our hero a bit. But he did it poorly, as he again mentioned that Yu got here through connections, while other employees went through a difficult path for this place. In the evening, lying in bed, he looked at the ceiling, again reliving his past. In his resume, apart from sports achievements, there was nothing that could interest him, and behind his shoulders was only school. The brunette continued to think about what to do next when a message came that yesterday's streamer was on air again. Suddenly, our hero had an idea that if everything is possible in the game, then he can shoot from a bow. And if he starts streaming... Here he stopped in his reasoning, because he had doubts whether his streams would become popular. The streamer, whom Yu often watches, plays poorly, but this is exactly what attracts viewers. And in the world, there are many other top streamers who far surpass our hero. Here the guy noticed that after the streamer shows his skill, many viewers strive to achieve such skill. They get motivation to improve themselves, just like in the world of sports. But in reality, there are many variables that fill the world of each of us. Studies, friends, family, and a whole series of surprises. While the game world, in which one needs to compete, improve oneself, and gradually rise higher, was simple but fair, just like the world in which our Yu lived in his youth. While our hero's thoughts were changing at a frantic pace, hope appeared in him. Hope for the return of a long-lost dream. The next day, Yu was sitting in a cafe with his friend, telling him about his intentions to buy a capsule, which he was clearly not happy about. The friend actively protested, giving various arguments. Our hero with an impassive face tried to calm the brown-haired man, but he got more and more angry. As it turned out, the friend's name was Kim Ju-hyuk. He was the only one Yu trusted at his previous job, and he was also from a wealthy family and a talented person who was taking huge steps towards success. Initially, Yu assumed that he would have to spend a little, but after talking with Kim, he realized that he would need a lot of money. In the end, the brown-haired man decided to help our hero, and already in the evening they came to the capsule rental center, although Yu didn't fully understand why, because he wanted to buy a capsule, not rent it. At the entrance, they were greeted by a smiling guy who offered to come inside. His name was Kang Soo, the owner of the capsule rental. Yu was impressed by his friend's intelligence, and upon entering, he saw many capsules. While the brunette was looking around, the owner Kang unexpectedly approached him and, offering to try the device before buying, dragged Yu for a biometric data check. While our hero was undergoing the check, a conversation started between Kang and Kim about how now many people, seeing how streamers play, go and buy capsules, hoping that their full potential will be revealed in the game. But in reality, the world of the game and the real world still differ significantly. When there are no limitations in physical data, people often push logic and common sense to the background. So Kang advised Kim to encourage Yu when expectations are not met, to which Kim mentally agreed. Meanwhile, the check was over, and owner Kang turned on the game Real Olympic for our hero, and also set up the capsule specifically for Yu. After moving, the brunette felt as if he really got to the Olympics. Everything was recreated to the smallest detail. And here again the commentators are heard, and our hero just stood. Kang and Kim thought he was nervous, but in fact, he was just getting used to it. Drawing the bowstring, Yu understood that the sensations are completely different from reality. His hands no longer trembled, and this was the difference of the unreal world. He fired 4 arrows at high speed, and each of them pierced the center. Kim and Kang were stunned by such an outcome. They looked at the screen and couldn't believe their eyes. They thought that Yu adapts very quickly, but owner Kang noticed that our hero looks completely different and involuntarily asked who the brunette was. When the game ended, the guys approached the capsule and began to praise Yu, but he didn't react and brought his trembling hand to his face. Looking at the brunette, Kim remembered the past, how Yu told him his story, that he was the youngest gold medal holder, he was the best in the world until that unfortunate incident. The brown-haired man really wants to help Yu because he loves archery with all his soul. Suddenly, our hero remembered that question that Kim asked him in the cafe, about whether the brunette probably already forgot how to shoot from a bow, but the young man laughed, because he will never be able to forget it. He still remembers that incident that deprived him of his dream, and the indifferent gaze of the doctor who made Yu say goodbye to his dream for good. Returning back to the capsule rental, the guy had already calmed down and he felt awkward, and Kim smiled warmly. Being at home, the guy was setting up his newly acquired capsule, remembering how Kang reacted to Yu's attitude towards his childhood dreams, and hoped that he didn't sell the capsule too cheaply. Finishing with the capsule setup, the brunette launched the stream and the game he had chosen in advance. Kingdom Age. The game's actions unfold in the Middle Ages, and the plot revolves around the life of a mercenary. The gameplay and combat in the game are very realistic. Although this game is well known, it's difficult, and therefore there aren't many streamers in it, and this is just the thing for a novice streamer like our hero. And so the game started, but before he could open his eyes, Yu had already been yelled at and hit so hard that he flew into a cart. After coming to his senses a bit, our hero got up and looked around, as before his eyes appeared a picture of a medieval slaughter. At this time, a man of European appearance approached him, who was yelling at our hero for his sluggishness. His name was Romus, the captain of the mercenaries who had hit the guy before this. At the moment when the captain shouted at Yu to take a weapon, the space around froze, and a system window with the choice of weapons appeared in front of the hero. Around him flew a spear, a sword, but there was no bow. This seemed strange to the young man. he still wanted to choose a bow, and then a message appeared in front of him with an offer to complete a trial with a bow. As it turned out, he is already being watched by 5 people, which Yu was not very happy about. But hearing that the task with the bow is called a trial means it's quite difficult, so he asked what's wrong with the bow, to which the viewers laughed, calling him a noob, and explained that the bow is very difficult because it's easy to miss, and arrows often bounce off armor. Yu thanked them for the information, but still took the bow, which made the viewers bewildered. But they were already anticipating how our hero would fail. After reading the comments, Yu thought that the viewers were quite friendly, but now he wondered. He chose the bow, but the weapon itself was nowhere to be seen. When suddenly one of the mercenaries was shot near him, from whose hands that very bow flew into the sky, which eventually fell into the guy's hands. The brunette was stunned, while the viewers laughed and had fun at our hero's reaction. At this moment, Romus shouted at him again, bringing Yu to his senses, and he finally calmed down and drew the bowstring. The new archer of the squad, with his first shot, scored a headshot, which slightly surprised the viewers. Looking at the chat, Yu asked whether it's always possible to kill with the first shot, to which he was answered that the game is very realistic, so only when hitting vital organs, you can kill with one shot as in real life. The brunette thanked for the answer, and before continuing said that he would spend 1 arrow per enemy, which again caused laughter from the viewers. Realizing that they don't believe him, Yu decided to prove his words in deed and letting loose several arrows. Each of them hit the heads of the enemies. At this moment, the young man looked especially like he had been through many battles, and his calm gaze simultaneously inspired fear and excited. Having dealt with all the enemies and hiding behind cover, our hero thought that it was easier than he expected, because unlike stationary targets, enemies move, but he still managed. Here he turned his gaze to the battle between Romus and one of the bandits. The bandit was a shield bearer, and therefore Yu thought that it would be very difficult to hit him, but still decided to take a risk. The guy was sitting behind cover, closely watching the battle, and waiting for the moment to attack. At this very moment, the captain of the mercenaries makes a lunge forward, attacking the enemy. And this attack did not go unnoticed, as it opened the way for our hero's arrows. Without thinking long, Yu drew the bowstring to the limit, and released an arrow at the shield bearer, thereby piercing his head. Having killed the last bandit, our hero noticed that there were no messages in the chat. At first, the guy thought that he had frozen, but soon a hail of messages poured on him. They were different, but all of them were united by the fact that they were extremely surprised by the young man. As it turned out, in addition to the fact that he killed all the enemies with 1 shot, the last of them was a boss, which is extremely difficult to defeat, especially solo and with a bow. They asked our hero how he did it, but he was bewildered and didn't understand what to answer. The viewers explained to him that in addition to the shield, the boss was very fast and strong, so without a strong shot, he couldn't be killed. Yu explained that he just drew the bowstring to the maximum each time, which caused another storm of bewilderment, because it's almost impossible to aim normally with a fully drawn bowstring. At this moment, Romus approached the guy, asking if our hero made that last shot. After the battle, a video of the young archer's game spread on the network, which began to gain popularity. And another hot topic was the unusual reaction and remarks of Romus. At the end of the video, the captain of the mercenaries asked the guy's name, to which he replied that his name was Almond. Romus promised that he would remember his name, but not only he remembered it. Internet users who saw the video will also remember his name. On the Kingdom Age forum, the same boredom reigned as in the game itself. And all because until the appearance of our hero, nothing interesting happened in it. On the internet, they are still discussing yesterday's game of the young man. People left different comments. Some believed in his success, some did not. One of the last comments was left by the author of the post. He confirmed that Yu is a noob because even the name of his stream was generated automatically. When the brunette read the comments, he was a little surprised because he didn't even think to write the name of his stream. Nevertheless, he was glad that people shared the link to his channel. This can help him in promotion, and here he noticed that he was compared with one of the most popular streamers. This streamer was called Electron. He was a top streamer, holding 4th place in the world ranking. Yu had seen him, so he was now stunned that he was being compared to him, because Electron is a legendary pro and a first-class streamer. Initially, the guy was a little worried, but soon the worry was replaced by happiness. At this time, he received a call. Taking the phone, the young man realized that Kim was calling him. When the guy answered, The brown-haired man immediately asked how yesterday's stream went. They calmly chatted. Kim continued to be interested in yesterday's stream and whether the capsule was working normally. But when the man learned that Yu had as many as 20 viewers on his stream yesterday, he was extremely surprised. Kim asked what our hero did to attract so many people on the first day, to which the brunette calmly replied that he had chosen the game well. They talked for a long time, but it was time for Yu to prepare for the stream. Kim was a bit surprised again because he thought our hero starts streaming after dinner. In response, Yu said that for him there are no lunches and dinners because now this is his job. At this moment, that same boss approached the brown-haired man from behind and started yelling at Kim. They said goodbye, and Yu chuckled that the old man was still the same. Launching the capsule, the guy thought that he should have eaten more, but even during the meal he felt that he was wasting time. Casting aside these thoughts, the young man sat in the capsule because he wanted to start the stream as soon as possible. Already sitting in the capsule, the guy again remembered how he was compared and discussed, causing excitement in his heart. This interest and evaluation from people gave our hero motivation, because deep down he craved it like a true athlete. Finally launching the stream, a bunch of comments poured on him with greetings and questions. It seemed to Yu that the chat had accelerated, and so he decided to check how many people were watching him, and the number stunned him. The guy started to worry because he didn't expect that post and forum to make so much noise. But soon he took a deep breath and tried to calm himself, imagining that it was all unreal, just a game he was playing. Strangely enough, this approach helped Yu relieve stress as if by magic. Calming down, the guy greeted his viewers. Meanwhile, Kim, displeased, sat in the office because the boss had disrupted his lunch, but as it turned out, nothing serious had happened. At this moment, Yu wrote to him, thanking him for his support and offering to drink at his expense, to which Kim smiled warmly. Reading the message, the brown-haired man suddenly remembered that he was supposed to tell our hero some information. It was something important about the capsule, but he completely forgot what he needed to tell. While he was thinking about what he should have told his friend, one of the employees approached him, reminding him that he had a scheduled meeting. Meanwhile, Yu continued his stream. The night before, the young man had turned the internet upside down in search of information on how to properly and qualitatively conduct a stream. It said that the audience should think of the streamer not as a streamer, but as a friend who is playing the game, whom the viewer is watching. Apparently deciding to try, Yu listed the names of yesterday's viewers and thanked them for coming to the stream again. The viewers were surprised by this turn of events. One even called him a streaming genius, which made the guy feel a bit awkward. Finally launching the game, our hero finds himself already in the saddle riding somewhere, which surprised him a bit. As it turned out, yesterday after the stream, the brunette played a bit more and accepted a quest to escort a nobleman and now was briefly explaining this to the viewers. Although the hero was still a bit surprised, as he expected to fight on the battlefield, and now he's someone's bodyguard, to which the comments replied that the game is terrifyingly realistic. Even his current horse riding feels real. At this moment, Romus addressed him, asking if it was our hero's first time riding a horse, to which the guy replied that he had ridden several times before. The brunette expected another caustic comment from Romus, but he behaved strangely again. Not only Yu was surprised by this, but all the viewers as well. They continued to ride calmly when the comments reported that mounted bandits should appear soon. The streamer didn't understand what they were talking about at first, but suddenly a squad of those very mounted bandits appeared in front of the carriage. There were quite a lot of them, and they were rushing towards our hero's carriage at great speed. Romus immediately reacted and ordered his mercenaries to attack the assailants. But the squad didn't manage to quickly understand the situation, and the bandits broke through the vanguard. At this very moment, the chat was excited, and the guy realized that the viewers liked such content. Yu realized that some of them wished him failure, but he was used to such treatment since his youth and therefore decided to demonstrate his abilities. Drawing the bowstring to the maximum, our hero threw a couple of caustic comments towards the mercenaries. Releasing an arrow from a huge distance, it flew between allies and hit right in the head of the bandit standing in front. Not only were Romus and the mercenaries shocked, but the chat went crazy from such a turn of events. As it turned out, that bandit was the gang leader. But Yu didn't pay attention to this, although he was glad that the viewers were delighted, so he decided to continue his series of headshots. With each shot of the guy, the number of bandits quickly decreased. The remaining bandits realized that there was no point in continuing the fight, and so they rushed to flee. But our hero didn't want to let them go, so he continued his shooting. Romus also didn't intend to let them go and gave the order to chase and destroy the remaining ones. thereby updating the task for the guy. At this time, an unknown user was browsing the Kingdom Age forum. He noticed many articles dedicated to our hero. As it turned out, he was also a game streamer with the nickname Acorn Jelly. He decided to watch the video with our hero's game. When he saw how Yu dealt with the mounted bandits, he was amazed by his skill. In the game, such shots are called perfect. In Kingdom Age, if you hit a vital point of an enemy, he instantly falls. But there are exceptions. If you're facing a boss, even a critical hit won't kill him. All players are familiar with critical hits, but in this game there is another hidden power. Perfect shot, an ability that can surpass critical hit in power and be more accurate than a headshot. However, no one believes in its existence, and even the old-timers of the game doubt whether it actually exists, because no one has ever used this skill. This is due to the extremely harsh conditions for using the skill, and that's why streamer Acorn Jelly couldn't understand how our hero performed this miracle. Deciding to find out who Yu was, he went to his channel and was surprised to discover that our hero was an absolute beginner. Meanwhile, the chase for the remaining bandits continued. During this chase, Romus asked Yu if he should take a spear or club instead of a bow for the pursuit. The guy also understood that it would be inconvenient with a bow on horseback, but still didn't want to change his weapon. Hearing his answer, the captain of the mercenaries suggested that if it's our hero, he'll succeed, and people in the chat felt some resentment towards Roman hearing such words. Although our hero was shooting from such a position for the first time, he was still confident in his abilities. But despite the fact that Yu imagined himself as a full-fledged person in the game, his hand was still shaking, and he could do nothing about it. But the guy wasn't going to give up, and releasing an arrow, he hit right in the neck of the fleeing bandit. In the chat, everyone was surprised and at the same time admired his idea of shooting on horseback. Interest was gradually growing. Yu himself was dissatisfied with his shot, because initially he planned to hit the head, and that's why he decided to adjust to the rhythm of the horse to increase accuracy. Drawing the bowstring again, he was ready to shoot, and this time he firmly decided to hit exactly in the head. And he succeeded. Shot after shot, he killed all the fleeing bandits. When the chase ended, the mercenary squad praised our hero for his incredible archery abilities. And the chat again fell into despondency due to the strange behavior of the mercenary squad, who are usually cold and displeased. Finishing the chase, Yu began to read the chat when he received a donation of 100,000 won from that very streamer Acorn Jelly. Soon, that very nobleman whom they were protecting approached our hero and Romus. He expressed his gratitude and promised to remember the brunette's name. But Yu didn't hear what the nobleman was saying. He was thinking only about the donation. At this moment, they yelled at him in the chat, demanding that he react somehow to the donation. The guy was in such a situation for the first time, so he didn't understand how to react. And then an idea for a reaction came to his mind. He decided to simply launch an arrow into the air. In the chat, many didn't understand his actions, but he continued presenting it as a trick with the disappearance of the arrow. And at this moment, the arrow he launched fell right on his head, thereby killing him and ending the game. The chat exploded with laughter at this situation, but Yu didn't feel awkward. On the contrary, he was happy that the viewers liked it. Unexpectedly, the capsule shut down by itself. Our hero understood that most likely, the problem was related to the age of the capsule, as the cooling system was no longer functioning properly. Catching his breath, Yu remembered about the stream and immediately connected to it from his phone. As expected, the broadcast ended, but the chat was still working, so the guy was able to explain the reason for the sudden end of the stream. Although the chat continued to laugh, they still praised our hero's talent for streaming. Initially, Yu wanted to explain his actions, but then decided that there was no point in it and simply wrote that there would be no more stream today. At the same time, the name Acorn Jelly flashed in the chat again, so the guy decided to check who this streamer was. Seeing his video, Yu was impressed by him and didn't understand what such a streamer was doing on his broadcast. And while our hero was watching the video of that streamer, he unexpectedly received a message from this very Acorn Jelly. Before replying to the message, Yu decided to learn more about this streamer. As it turned out, Jelly was a quite famous and versatile game streamer. However, Yu still didn't know how to respond to the offer of cooperation and collaboration. This offer could bring our hero huge benefits if he agreed, but there was also a downside. Many might think that Yu was just using the fame of an already known streamer. Our hero sat and couldn't make a decision, to agree or refuse. And at this moment, his phone rang. It was Kim again, who was interested in how the streams were going and if the guy was worried. In response, our hero calmly said that everything was fine and that he was used to such attention because he had been called a genius since childhood. The last word slightly angered Kim, but he wasn't calling for that. Smiling brightly, the brown-haired man said that he had quit. This news greatly shocked the always calm Yu. The guy immediately asked what caused such a sudden resignation, to which his friend said that he simply had a fight with that boss, Manager Park. While Kim was telling the story of his resignation, our hero was thinking about the fact that his friend was now a free agent and any company would be happy to get him. Yu also wanted to hire the brown-haired man as his manager, but he understood that he couldn't afford to pay him a stable salary. Unexpectedly, Kim himself offered to become our hero's manager. The guy was pleasantly surprised and immediately agreed. Then the brown-haired man started talking about the capsule, remembering how Yu cried, which greatly embarrassed our hero. But the guy didn't stop, continuing to recall how the brunette was happy to take a bow in his hands again. This scene touched Kim, so he wants to help our hero in fulfilling his dream. He himself strives to understand what he likes, but Yu worries about his career, however. The brown-haired man is sure that everything will be fine if he takes a year-long break. Moreover, if they succeed, they will be swimming in money. These words caused a relieved smile on our hero's face. After chatting a bit more, the brunette told Kim about that collaboration offer, which delighted the brown-haired man. Although Yu was still doubtful, his friend assured him that this was their opportunity that they shouldn't miss. However, our hero said that he doesn't know how to impress people. In response, Kim said not to worry and leave it to him. In one of the cafes sat a girl who was anxiously wondering if they had chosen a suitable place for the meeting. And opposite her sat a guy who was tidying himself up. These were that very streamer Acorn Jelly, or simply Do J-Mock, and his manager Nayeon. While they were arguing in anticipation of what our hero would be like, he had already approached. Yu immediately introduced himself, and he was dressed as if from a needle. Apparently, Kim had worked well on his appearance. While they were exchanging greetings and pleasantries, Kim himself approached. He looked no less presentable than our hero, and even prepared business cards. Yeon and Doji felt awkward about their preparation, as they considered themselves more experienced in this field. Looking at the business cards, they were stunned, because Kim and Yu had previously worked in a large company. While the brown-haired man was exchanging pleasantries with the manager and streamer, our hero wondered when he had managed to make business cards. Finally, they started discussing their collaboration. It's unknown how much time passed, but the negotiations ended, and only the financial question remained, to which Yu said that since he's a newbie, he can do without a salary. But the Acorn Jelly team protested, saying they couldn't do that. Our hero wanted to add something, but Kim skillfully interrupted him and reported that the partners could pay them at least a minimum amount. In response, Doji said that in this field, payment is not hourly, so he decided to make an offer himself, saying that he would give half of the donations from the joint stream. Hearing this, Yu was surprised and didn't know what to say. Already on the street, the guys happily discussed that they would receive half of the stream's donations. As it turned out, Kim had already found out that streamer Acorn Jelly had collected 2 million won in donations over the last month, so the amount from the joint stream should be no less than 100,000 won. Yu was surprised where his friend found this information, but then the brown-haired man sent him another message. It was a recording of recent collaboration negotiations, and seeing this, our hero began to be a little scared of his friend, and the guy just laughed. And at such a cheerful pace, they continued their walk while making plans for the future. The next day, Yu launched a stream, where among many complaints and greetings in the chat appeared a message about a collab with Acorn Jelly. The guy was initially surprised that the information had already leaked to the masses, but still masterfully diverted the topic of conversation in another direction. In a moment, Yu saw how the chat began to argue about bosses not dying from one hit. The young man was confused, because recently he had slain the leader of the mounted bandits with one shot, but he was immediately informed that it wasn't just a boss, but an elite monster. While he was thinking, he received a notification about a donation of 100,000 won and a task to kill a boss with one shot, for which another 100,000 was due. The brunette didn't think long and accepted the task, which caused a chuckle in the chat. But Yu didn't get confused, and thanked for the task and donation. He decided to remove the psychological barrier for other donators in this way. And his plan worked. After his words, donations started pouring in one after another. Our hero was glad of such a turn of events because he hadn't even entered the game yet and already so much was donated. After thanking all the donators, he entered Kingdom Age and found himself where he had stopped last time. At this moment, a girl named Amelia called out to him. Apparently, this was one of the key characters, thought the guy, as two answer options appeared before him. But you chose the boring option, saying something like, "It's just my job." Despite this, the lady still thanked our hero. At this moment, Romus approached the girl and warned about the continuing danger in the vicinity. He suggested sending a special squad to eliminate the bandits, and his proposal was approved. That same night, that very cleanup squad set out on a mission. It consisted of destroying the bandit camp in the mountains, and the squad successfully discovered it. The captain of the mercenaries stopped and ordered everyone to be ready because the attack should be sudden and quick. Our hero, meanwhile, admired how indistinguishable the game was from reality. At this moment, an order from Romus to start the attack was heard, and the squad immediately rushed into battle. And our archer remained standing behind, shooting all the bandits within his reach. While he was destroying one bandit after another, he unexpectedly received a message about unlocking a new skill, sequential shooting. You decided to test it in action and released several arrows at incredible speed. Each of them found its target, and the scene where bandits were defeated one after another took everyone's breath away. Many viewers were surprised because this skill was completely useless, but soon they realized that it wasn't about the skill, but about our hero. After Yu had slain all the bandits, he was again amazed by the possibilities of the bow, and apparently, he liked this new skill. At the same time, he received donations and various messages, and he cheerfully chatted with the chat. During the communication, he realized that it was very fun. He liked interesting games, people's reactions, and the realism of what was happening. Apparently, this was his calling. What made our hero happy again? While he was thinking about this, Romus unexpectedly approached him and again began to praise the young man. During the conversation, the guy received a donation with a question about the location of the boss. And at this moment, a voice of a mercenary was heard from the side, reporting that he had found the boss's corpse. Seeing that he was killed by an arrow, the stream viewers couldn't believe it. Yu didn't pay attention to this until he received a donation from Acorn Jelly of 100,000 with a message that it was a perfect shot. Many in the chat began to laugh and say that it doesn't exist, and the guy didn't understand what they were talking about. Acorn sat at the table and read messages from the stream, all the mockery of him, and that he was a simple babbler. This greatly upset and annoyed the guy. He hoped that Yu would be able to explain everything to them, but on the contrary, the young man directly asked what this perfect shot was, which surprised Doji. The guy was confused because Almond had made perfect shots many times, and now he's pretending that he's hearing about them for the first time. But then his mood quickly changed, and Doji realized that this streamer was a damn genius and a real pro. Acorn Jelly sent another donation to the young man, in which he stated that the perfect shot exists, and he will prove it to them. After which in the chat, he suggested Yu to conduct a joint stream. The young man paid attention to the violent reaction of the chat after Acorn Jelly announced his intention to conduct a joint stream. While the guy was pretending to decide, he received another donation of 100,000 won, where the donator said that if the perfect shot is shown, he will throw in another 100 pieces. This was exactly the moment Yu was waiting for, and after the donation, he agreed to the joint stream. Finally, Acorn Jelly donated another 10,000 won, after which he left, and Yu himself continued to discuss various topics with the chat, and one of the commentators reminded him about the total amount of Jelly's donation of 120,000 won. The guy remembered that he should thank the guy. The chat immediately realized what he was going to do and tried to stop him, but the process was already irreversible. Thanking for 120,000 won, Yu ended the stream in his traditional manner, taking himself out of the game with his own arrow. When the young man came out of the game, he felt sick. He thought that if he often exits the game like this, he might go crazy in real life. Then he received a message about a meeting. Yu didn't immediately understand what kind of meeting it was, but he was quickly reminded that they should conduct a joint stream with an interview. After finishing arranging their joint stream, the guy approached the computer and began to view reviews of his stream. Everyone was discussing his victory over the boss with just one shot and the presence of Acorn Jelly on his stream. Yu himself was also in shock from all these events that happened during his one stream. One of the viewers calmed the audience, reminding about tomorrow's joint stream from which everything will become clear, and here, as if on cue, people's attention switched to Yu's appearance. They discussed that he might be an ordinary nerd. Suddenly his phone rang and it turned out to be Kim again. He sent him a link to a video that had gained 40,000 views in an hour. The guy didn't remember them starting a channel on AllTube, but it turned out to be a video of acorn jelly, or rather a teaser of their upcoming stream. The teaser showed the best moments from Yu's game, which further raised the audience's interest in their stream. Meeting at Acorn Jelly's studio, his manager suggested the guy to rest for a while because at the very beginning of the stream, a maximum of 4,000 to 5,000 people will gather. Wishing each other luck, they started the stream, and from the very beginning they had 10,000 viewers. Acorn Jelly expected 3,000 to 4,000 viewers to come to the stream, but the interest in the broadcast turned out to be too great, and therefore from the very beginning they broke all records. Yu, waiting for his entrance, watched as his experienced colleague warmed up the audience. Doji himself reminded everyone about the upcoming proof of the existence of the so-called perfect shot, which will happen at the end. Finishing with warming up the viewers, Acorn Jelly announced the presentation of their special guest. Yu was introduced as a popular genius archer under his internet name Almond. To the exclamations in the chat, our hero came on stage and introduced himself under his pseudonym. Seeing Yu, the chat went crazy, because they didn't expect to see a beautiful young guy as a genius game streamer. Doji tried to calm the raging chat, while Yu couldn't read even a word from the chat. Deciding not to delay the audience, streamer Acorn moved to the computer and suggested the guy to start the game, while asking for his optimization code. But our hero didn't understand what he was talking about, which stunned the streamer. The brown-haired man tried to explain to the young man why the optimization code was needed, but Yu still didn't understand what they wanted from him. Doji was bewildered, because if you play without optimization, the control becomes much more difficult, and it turns out that our hero demonstrated such a high level of skill without using any additional settings. At this moment, Kim jumped up from his seat because the optimization code was exactly what he forgot to tell Yu about. He hurried to the streamers and, addressing Doji, confirmed that our hero really wasn't familiar with all these subtleties. After listening to him, streamer Acorn began to explain to the viewers that the brunette had acquired a used capsule and just played, without going into details. After Doji finished his explanations, a message about Yu's game crashes appeared in the chat. Our hero explained that this happens with each of his deaths, which surprised the brown-haired man because in Kingdom Age after death, everything starts over. Doji was even more shocked by our hero when he learned all these details, and in this state called him a genius. Hearing his words, the guy smiled easily, agreeing with his opinion. This again surprised the brown-haired man, but this time not only him but also the chat, because Yu behaved like a real pro. After setting up the optimization code for the brunette, the streamers entered the lobby. Without delay, Doji announced to the chat that they intend to find out if the perfect shot actually exists. Entering Kingdom Age, the guys found themselves in the place where our hero had saved. Romus explained the essence of the task, which was to destroy the Goblin Cave. Sitting in the cart that was taking the squad on a mission, Doji again began to explain the conditions of the perfect shot. The first condition was an accurate hit to the creature's head, and the second condition was that you need to fulfill the first condition on the first try. Yu, hearing these conditions, showed no enthusiasm. His voice and facial expression were absolutely indifferent, and such a reaction could not but surprise streamer Acorn. The guy decided not to pay attention to our hero's reaction, because he had already made perfect shots and the conditions might not be so important for him. While Doji was thinking about how to prove the perfect shot, Romus approached him from behind and hit the guy on the head with his heavy hand. The captain of the mercenaries was displeased that the guy wasn't coming out, because the squad had already arrived and only he was holding them up. After that, Romus turned his attention to our hero, radically changing his attitude. He enthusiastically wished successful completion of the task, and Doji, seeing this, felt offended because of such a stark difference in their perception, while the chat was full of laughter. After some time, they were already sitting in ambush, and the brown-haired man was talking with the chat. At this moment, Romus approached him again and, hitting him on the head again, told him to shut up, and this caused a new wave of laughter in the chat. The captain asked Yu to demonstrate to the newbie what a sudden attack is, to which the guy agreed. Hiding in the grass, our hero noticed that it became much easier to move, and the optimization also helped to remove that unpleasant feeling that had been bothering him before. In this case, It will be much easier for the young genius, and he, drawing the bowstring, prepared for battle. Releasing an arrow, he, in his characteristic manner, killed a goblin with one shot. The viewers were in complete amazement, and Doji, seeing this, changed his expression. Continuing the attack, Yu killed a couple more goblins. This delighted the brown-haired man, and he noticed that our hero had become even better than before. So in addition to his excellent physical shape, the young genius had an amazing feature that manifested itself in his speech and behavior. He had an innate ability to evoke admiration from others, which is possible only for true geniuses. And thanks to this talent, it will not be difficult for him to become a new star. After working a little more, the guy finally killed all the goblins and completely cleared their cave. Romus praised our hero, while everyone else stood in a stupor and didn't understand what had just happened. The mercenary squad always clears similar caves together and a lot of blood is spilled, but the young archer alone was able to kill the entire cave. Here Doji addressed the chat and began to praise the perfect shot that was just demonstrated, but the viewers laughed at his words. While the streamer was explaining everything to the chat, Romus ordered his fighters to block the entrance and start a fire, in which case the rest of the goblin pack would not survive. As the squad watched the smoke slowly fill the entire cave, the sounds of someone's footsteps were heard from the other side. As it turned out, it was the goblin champion who had escaped, which greatly frightened the ordinary fighters of the squad. Now they had a new task, to destroy the goblin champion, and therefore Doji immediately began to ask Yu to perform a perfect shot. Everyone in the chat was excited. Now they will be able to clearly understand whether it was a perfect shot or not. The guy himself had already drawn the bowstring of the bow. But then the young man stopped and loosened the bow's tension. No one understood what was wrong, but it turned out that this large goblin had an iron helmet. Our hero urgently needed to come up with a solution. He thought that he could aim at other points. But the head was the most vital, and in this short time, the guy was able to come up with a plan. Yu directed his bow upwards and released an arrow, which scared the viewers because they remember how such antics end. But their worries were in vain. The guy's plan was for the arrow to hit the back of the monster's head, and it was successfully executed. Everyone who was on the battlefield at that moment stood in a stupor. The chat also couldn't believe the reality of what was happening. At the moment when the goblin completely fell, Doji screamed with joy. The viewers were also very happy with what they had just seen. While everyone was rejoicing, Yu turned his attention to the chat and saw a huge number of donation messages with various amounts, the largest of which were 100,000 and 200,000 won. Coming out of their capsules, Doji ran to Nayan to boast about their success, while our hero was disappointed that even top capsules don't have a cooling system. As it turned out, their game glitched and the stream was temporarily interrupted. All this happened due to the wild hype around their broadcast. But now the stream is restored, and Kim suggested the guys earn more donations through an interview. Doji was all for it and was about to start, only the young man wanted to dry his wet hair after the capsule, but Na-Yan stopped him saying that he looks perfect now. Going live again, the guys greeted the chat, which was happy for their return and was still recovering from Yu's amazing fight. During the interview, our hero stated that he really didn't know anything about the perfect shot. While in the chat, they paid attention not only to his skills, but also to how beautiful he looks now. Continuing the interview, someone in the chat said that Doji definitely cried after the screen went dark. The guy felt ashamed and was about to make excuses, but then people started donating non-stop. The guys were surprised by this turn of events and asked the viewers to slow down. Kim, who was standing aside, was shocked by the number of donations, as more than 1,000 people had already donated to them. While Doji was announcing the names of all donors, another message came to the chat with a donation of 1 million won. This was the most unexpected event for Yu and Kim on the stream. Streamer Acorn began to thank the donor and immediately began to read the message, which said to tell our hero that he is very handsome. The author of the previous donation donated exactly the same amount again, which finished off Doji, but he quickly switched to questions from viewers for Yu, where each question was about his personal life and the guy answered them all. Our hero felt a bit awkward, but such attention warms his heart and he likes what he's doing now. This is what suits him. Finishing the stream, everyone thanked each other for their work, after which Na-Yan provided towels to the young streamer, worried about his high sweating. Sitting down at the table, Kim provided a gift of sweet treats as a token of gratitude for the care. This did not go unnoticed by Yu, and he was glad that he had such a manager. Exchanging pleasantries, Doji took out his tablet and showed the guys how much money they raised today, thanks to the genius Yu. The amount that was earned from the past stream was 5.5 million won, which made Yu and Kim's eyes almost pop out of their heads. The young man was surprised by such an amount, and as it turned out, Doji had never had such money in his account before either. Then Na-yeon approached and calculated that if they split it in half, each side would get almost 3 million won. These words made the guy's eyes light up with dollar signs. Yu's team began to thank Doji, but he stopped them because most of the credit lies with our hero. The guy said that luck was on their side today, because usually earning 500,000 won on a stream is already a jackpot. Here, Kim realized that the source of income from donations is not the main one. Yu's manager decided to ask how Doji actually raises money. The guy began to explain that the main sources are advertising and sponsorship. Kim noticed that famous people do such things, Na-yeon confirmed, and said that they also earn thanks to their appearance. After which she poured a barrage of criticism towards Doji's appearance, which humiliated him. Here they began to argue among themselves about how a streamer should behave in the entertainment industry, which made Kim uncomfortable. Finishing the argument, Na-yeon switched her attention to our hero and shyly stated that a guy with his appearance can partially behave like a star. But Yu didn't like this arrangement. He didn't want to change his direction and become someone else instead of a game streamer. Doji and Na-yeon explained to him that they were telling him about strategies for earning money, and besides streaming, it wouldn't hurt him to do some side activity. The young man began to explain to his inexperienced colleague the types of streamers. He explained that there are streamers who conduct their main activity on AllTube, and there are streamers who occupy a narrower niche, like the heroes themselves, as they cluster on Tribe. Doji asked Kim if he had such experience, but it turned out that our hero's manager hadn't worked with such things yet. They also suggested finding a good editor, after which the guys advised Yu not to rush because the guy's income is not big yet and it's better to be patient. In the underground parking lot, the young people were saying goodbye to each other and discussing plans for their next stream. Shaking hands with the guy, Doji thought for a moment and realized that soon our hero would be far ahead of him. As soon as they arrived at Yu's house, he got out and thanked Kim for giving him a ride, and as he was leaving, the manager called out to him. He said he understands that the young man is now thinking a lot about AllTube and Tribe. Kim asked his friend not to rush with decisions, because the guy is insanely talented and whatever he does, he will succeed. These words of support warmed Yu's soul and he thanked his friend for it. Climbing the stairs, our hero noticed that it had gotten colder, which brought back memories of his grandmother in his head. Continuing to climb the stairs, Yu remembered his late relative and communicated with her, boasting that he was able to earn almost 3 million won today. Looking at his right hand, the young man clenched it and stated that he would continue to do this, because in the capsule his hand is completely different and doesn't shake. Terrible memories of that unfortunate accident and its consequences for him and his grandmother surfaced in the guy's head. This hand was the most hated part of his body after that injury, but it was always with him like his shadow, and now he can again draw the bowstring with it. Our hero looked up at the sky, telling his grandmother that now he is surrounded by kind people and he can use the bow. When he finished, tears flowed from his eyes. The guy decided that maybe it's too late, but remembering his grandmother's words and calming down, he decided that he would continue to fight. He just regrets that she can't see this, and this is what he regrets the most. At this time in Doji's studio, the streamer was scrolling through the forum, and as he expected, the hype around their past broadcast is simply gigantic. Proof of this is that the post about Kingdom Age is in the top 10 for the first time. Na-yeon asked if he had already seen that cool video, but Doji hadn't found any video yet. As it turned out, this video was released in the community of editors and the girl promptly sent him a link. Following it, the guy found a video there and enthusiastic comments from users, after which he thought that the heavens themselves are helping you. The next morning, after taking a shower, our hero decided to organize the information he learned yesterday. Firstly, he learned that streamers have two sources of income: donations from streams and advertising. And also edited videos on AllTube also bring income from advertising. Suddenly, the hero realized that of all possible options, the so-called star style would suit him best. Yesterday, Kim also advised him to follow this style, and the brown-haired man was inspired by this idea. He also mentioned one blogger who adhered to this style, but Yu noted that that blogger was radically different from our hero, because he had a silver tongue but couldn't play at all. Thinking about all this, the guy realized that he urgently needs an editor, so he began to look for one. During his search, he accidentally stumbled upon a video film about himself. As it turned out, it was a video of the person who donated 2 million on that stream. Without thinking long, our hero turned on the video, and from the very first seconds, he was struck by the dynamism and editing of this film. Watching the video, you even thought that he was watching a movie now because the sound in the video was very high quality. Here he came across a moment where you could fully appreciate the editor's skills. His eyes changed with pictures and at the end opened with beautiful color correction. The video showed a moment where our hero, with his perfect shot, sends the enemy to the forefathers. After watching the video, even Yu himself was amazed by his game and couldn't believe it was him. Going downstairs, he saw many positive comments and decided to urgently call Kim. As soon as he took the phone in his hands, he immediately received a message from the brown-haired man. He just sent him exactly the video that our hero had just watched and said that he would chat with the editor and the guy shouldn't be distracted and focus on the game. Seeing his message, Yu was glad to have such a wonderful manager and therefore could not let him down. Warming up, the guy prepared everything for the upcoming stream. But before launching the stream, he decided to practice to improve his skills. Choosing several options, he set everything to maximum difficulty and began his training. Finishing training, Yu decided to rest and have dinner. But looking at the clock, he realized that he didn't have time and therefore decided to quickly have a snack. While our hero was snacking on almonds, he suddenly remembered that most likely people had written many comments about the joint stream and video film, which made Yu a little nervous. At the same time, an office worker was sitting heavily sighing and regretting that he got involved in some game. The man was sitting in the office of Korea's largest domestic game distributor, Punk. As it turned out, the worker was suffering and regretting his game project. Kingdom Age, simultaneously scolding himself for knowing the outcome but still spending time on the project. Already completely desperate, he began to calm himself that the situation could be improved because experts liked the game. The man had already begun to think about how to bring players back. The thought of an event flashed, but he quickly realized that it was a dead end because the game is not selling at all. The developer even dreamed a little about a top player, then everything would definitely be better, but the game is not even on the list for esports. Thinking about how to revive his project, the man typed its name on the internet, deciding to look at the latest news with it. Here in the first place, he got a video with our hero, and when he launched it, enchanting music started playing. The game developer appreciated the quality style in which the video was made, but he was more concerned not with the beauty of the video, but with Yu's skills. He immediately checked our hero's account and was surprised that it was created just a couple of days ago, and the guy is a simple newbie. This was a jackpot for the man, because Yu is not only a talented and capable streamer, but he's also damn handsome. After subscribing to his account, the developer received a notification about the beginning stream. He was glad, because he had just subscribed and was already getting to a stream where he could appreciate the young man even more. Entering the stream, he was surprised by what he saw. Yu's stream had just launched, and the number of viewers had already exceeded 1,000. The main character was surprised by such a number of viewers from the very beginning. Moreover, it continued to grow steadily. According to established customs, if a streamer's number of viewers exceeds 1,000 from the launch of his broadcast, he can become a permanent streamer. At this time, the chat was going crazy, and our hero remembered how Doji and Na-Yan coped with 50,000 viewers, all because they are professionals and organized everything perfectly. Yu was thinking about how to start, and when he was ready, the guy greeted everyone on the stream. Here he started receiving messages that they want to see his beautiful face, not just listen to the young man's voice. As it turned out, many newcomers appeared in the chat who didn't know that Yu streams without a webcam, and the guy himself was surprised by their desire to see his face. Here a message appeared in the chat from an unknown user, where there was a link, and by following it, you could see photos of our hero. This confused the guy, but still he wanted attention, and the young man himself liked it, so he agreed to turn on the camera. Turning on the webcam, money immediately flowed to Yu. People donated to him as a sign of gratitude and admiration for his beauty. Entering the game, the guy again met the beauty Amelia, who praised him for destroying the goblins. Our hero began to be modest, saying that he was not alone, but the girl interrupted him and said that she knows everything. Suddenly she took his hand and said that she has another task for him. The guy asked why she didn't ask Romus about this, but she said that she wants him to complete this task alone. The brunette was stunned, but Amelia continued and pointed to a castle in the distance. Then her facial expression suddenly changed to stern and creepy, and she asked Yu in a cold voice to kill the lord of that castle. This sudden change surprised and frightened not only our hero but the entire chat. While Yu stood there not understanding what was happening, the beauty unexpectedly took the guy's hand again and said she believed in him. When she did this, a message appeared in front of the guy's face with a question about accepting the quest. At the same time, that very developer watching the brunette's stream was thinking that this mission was impossible to complete with a bow. Many in the chat also said that the streamer wouldn't be able to complete the mission with a bow because sieges in Kingdom Age are incredibly difficult, all due to the complexity of mechanics and advanced AI of characters. But the biggest problem is Lord Talorant, because besides being a very strong boss, he is armored from head to toe, which is very problematic for an archer. This lord is one of the most difficult opponents in the game, especially for archers, so no matter how capable Almond might be, he'll still need a bit of a miracle. Our hero accepted the quest from Emilia. She was happy and knew he would agree to help her. In the chat, the acceptance of the quest was met with laughter and they supported Yu in his successful demise. But the guy was no fool and stated that medieval castles are not so great and dangerous. There will be about 50 people and therefore it will be easy for the young man. Finishing his explanations, our hero looked towards the lady. He became curious about what reason the girl had to give an order for someone's death. Although she is just a regular character for you, she doesn't look at all like a person who could give such an order. The young man decided to ask Lady Emilia what Lord Talorant had done to deserve such an order. As it turned out, the lord of this castle had made slaves out of his people. He drove them all into debt with crazy interest rates, and in order to pay it off, they would have to serve him until the end of their days. That's why it's so important for her to remove the lord, because after he disappears, people will become free, and her family will be able to take care of them. This answer satisfied our hero, and now he was fully ready to complete the mission. Already at night, Yu arrived at that very castle and hid nearby to look around. While the guy was sitting in the bushes, he became curious about whether the game determines when he's talking to himself. In the chat, they answered that it does. The young man nodded in response, once again convinced of the realism of the game, and soon moved towards the castle. With quick and graceful movements, he quietly approached the walls of the fortress. The chat was surprised by his agility, and Yu himself was pleased, because this is the result of his training. Finally finding himself under the walls, the guy began to examine the surroundings. On the wall, he noticed 2 lights, indicating that there are 2 guards, which means it's dangerous to recklessly go forward. The brunette understood that it's worth removing them quietly, and for this a dagger is needed. But the young man himself was not good with other types of weapons, so he decided to work the old-fashioned way. When the viewers saw his actions, they began to dissuade him and scold him. At this moment, the guy's eyes widened and he had an idea. He came up with a way to kill 2 guards in one fell swoop. Moving away from the wall, he drew the bowstring, selecting the right trajectory. When the viewers saw his actions, they began to doubt their success. But Yu was confident in himself. Choosing the target and selecting the right trajectory, our hero released the first arrow. Then he took out the second one and, aiming, began to wait for the right moment. When the arrow had almost reached the guard's head, Yu released the second one. The arrows simultaneously pierced the heads of 2 guards, killing them instantly and not even giving them time to realize what happened. Seeing this, the viewers were in complete shock and began to shower our hero with compliments and donations. But an even greater shock was that very man working at Punk Company. He was pleased with Yu's talent. Without delay, the developer took the phone and called Director Now, saying that he would send a dossier on a streamer whom they must get. Of course, this streamer was our hero. Meanwhile, there was no one on the castle wall, and it was unknown where the young man was. As it turned out, he was climbing up the wall, and having climbed up, began to complain about the difficulty of the game. Many of the viewers were surprised that our hero managed to climb the wall. At this moment, Yu heard someone approaching and quickly hid the bodies of the killed guards. It was another guard who didn't even suspect the presence of our hero. The guard was leisurely walking along the wall, wondering where his colleagues had gone, while Yu was already aiming at his neck. Without much difficulty dealing with another obstacle, the guy read the chat and began to remove the body. Finishing, the brunette noticed how in the chat they discussed that it would be more difficult further, because the number of guards will increase significantly. Yu understood this too, but had already found a way to overcome it. Disguised as a guard, he calmly walked around the inner courtyard of the castle. First of all, the archer went to the armory to replenish his arrow supplies. While he was doing this, a passing guard noticed him and called out. Without thinking, Our hero plunged an arrow right between the eyes of the one who called out to him. While the chat was telling him that his task is only to kill the Lord, he noticed another guard. Here the guy was hinted in the chat that his secret operation was revealed. The young man remembered his competitions where he once shone, and pulling out an arrow, he placed it under the bowstring. In those moments, he completely fell out of reality, focusing only on his target. Then this complex world at that very moment gained unprecedented clarity. The guy had only two outcomes, hit or miss, and in the face of this fork, the strength of our hero increased to an incredible level. Having killed another guard, the guy began to run. At this moment, a warrior appeared out of nowhere and rushed in pursuit of the brunette. But he, without slowing down, pierced with an arrow the foot of the one who was chasing him. Suddenly, even more guards appeared, rushing in pursuit of our hero. But the guy was not simple, and gracefully turning around, he released an arrow. This arrow pierced the head of the guard standing in front. After that, Yu released more arrows, killing the two remaining warriors. The guy understood that there were too many guards outside, so it was time to go inside. But climbing the wall, he met another warrior. Again, piercing the enemy's head with an arrow. The guy was unlucky this time, as his actions did not go unnoticed. The guards immediately notified the rest of the castle about the invasion, loudly blowing the horn. In a matter of seconds, many guards gathered around our hero. Seeing this, the chat was guessing how our hero would get out of this difficult situation. Without delay, the guards rushed into battle. In parallel with them in the chat, there was indignation at Yu's actions. But the guy was imperturbable, not paying attention to the fact that he was surrounded. He skillfully applied the skill of sequential shooting, thereby destroying everyone who tried to approach him. He shot without delay, one arrow after another, taking the lives of attacking guards. In a matter of seconds, many corpses appeared on the guard wall of the castle. Seeing how our hero easily defeats them, fear began to overcome the guards. Those who managed to survive fled in fear, shouting that Yu is a real monster. But the brunette didn't think of letting them go, so he rushed after them, which scared them even more. In the chat, they asked if it was even possible to accomplish such a thing, to which our hero mentally replied that it was possible. And it wasn't because his hand in the game was like a rock, but because he had unshakable concentration. Continuing to pursue them, Yu continued to release arrow after arrow, striking one soldier after another. And so it continued until he killed all the guards on the walls. Catching his breath, the guy smiled at the chat, which at this time seemed to have gone crazy, again showering our hero with compliments for his talent and skill. Donations also came more and more frequently, which could not but please our hero. After talking with the chat, Yu focused on his mission and headed straight to the Lord's chambers. Entering inside, the guy saw at the end of the hall, sitting on the throne, the Lord, armored from head to toe. But our hero didn't understand, because it seemed that the Lord was waiting for him, although his arrival was planned to be secret, which made people in the chat laugh at his reaction. At this moment, Lord Talleyrand threw some object at our hero, which forcefully crashed into the wall behind his back. As it turned out, it was a sword that stuck into the wall a few centimeters from the guy. While the brunette was in a stupor, the Lord, with obvious threat in his voice, asked if our hero had come alone. But Yu didn't answer, and simply took a shooting stance, preparing for battle. And after a few seconds, he realized how stupidly he had behaved, and people in the chat began to laugh at him. The thing was that the Lord's armor was impossible to pierce. At this moment, Talleyrand called his personal guard, who were also armored from head to toe. When the viewers saw the scene where 3 guardsmen and the Lord were fully dressed in armor, they doubted the guy's ability to win. The chat suggested the brunette to take the stuck sword and fight with it, but our hero didn't do that. Although he doesn't play often, he understands that if there is a quest, it can be completed, and if there is a possibility to use a bow, you can find a way to win with it. Therefore, Yu continued his duel with the bow, striving to find all possible details that would help him win. Meanwhile, the guards were preparing to attack the guy. But our hero had already found that very detail that would help him. At that very moment, one of the guards rushed forward, attacking the guy, but he easily dodged. In flight, our hero turned around and shot at the attacker's helmet. Hitting the ring on the helmet, he removed it. This was exactly the method Yu had found. The other 2 guards were amazed, which distracted them from our hero and gave him an opportunity to act. And without wasting time, he also knocked off their helmets. One of the guards, unable to contain his anger, rushed to attack, but the young man again easily dodged. And in this position, he pierced the attacker's head with an arrow. The remaining knights were also going to attack, but it was too late. Yu didn't even let them get close, piercing their heads with his lightning-fast arrows. When the battle was over, a deathly silence reigned in the hall. It was broken by Lord Talleyrand, who praised our hero for his skill. While the Lord was slowly approaching, skillfully wielding his sword, people in the chat were asking Yu how he was going to defeat him, since the Lord doesn't have a loop on his helmet like the guards. However, the guy had already figured out what to do, but wasn't sure if it would work. Nevertheless, he decided to try. Taking a fighting stance, he activated the sequential shooting skill. Plunging arrows near himself, our hero prepared to shoot. But the Lord just laughed, saying that arrows would never pierce his armor, so the guy's actions were ridiculous. The chat was also skeptical about Yu's decision, but the brunette himself didn't pay attention to the mockery and remained calm. While Talleyrand was approaching, the guy released the first arrow straight at the heart, but the armor deflected it. The Lord didn't understand the guy's actions, and again repeated to him that it was useless. He continued walking, but another arrow flew at him, and this began to irritate him. In the next moment, a whole hail of arrows flew at the Lord, which caused him even more irritation. But the guy didn't stop. He only accelerated. Gradually, huge sparks began to fly from the collision of arrows and armor. The guy's actions were heating up the Lord's armor. Unable to bear it, Talleyrand rushed at our hero with a cry. In the chat, they still didn't understand our hero's actions, but he continued to release arrows. And finally, the last arrow reached its target, piercing the heart of Lord Talleyrand. When the Lord was defeated, the chat was almost bursting with ovations, admiration, and praise for our hero. Yu himself was also happy about his victory, because he had gone through training and then a high-difficulty quest. It all exhausted him, but the joy of victory is always sweet. After everything, our hero spent some more time chatting with the chat and thanking people for donations. While Yu was communicating with the viewers, he received a donation of 300,000 won from that big donator from the joint stream, Seo Jia. Meanwhile, in the subway, a small girl was standing in the car, squeezing among a bunch of people. She tried to get out, but people were blocking her way, not letting her pass. But she still managed to do it, and coming out at the station, she was able to catch her breath. Returning home, she thought about how she was annoyed by crowds of people and the noise they create. And instead of going against the crowd, she would like to just be where there's not a soul. From these thoughts, a displeased grimace appeared on her face. Just returning home, she immediately sat down at the computer and began to check something. Suddenly, a happy smile lit up her face. As it turned out, she was watching our hero's broadcast, who had just started his stream. The girl considered the guy's streams the only ray of light in her life. Initially watching because of the nickname, she became attached to our hero and now was his fan. The girl watched his stream from beginning to end, how he cleared the wall, how he revealed himself but destroyed all the guards, how cleverly he figured out how to deal with the armored guardsmen, and how he killed the castle lord in an incredible way. This whole stream made her very happy and she wanted to donate. At first, she was torn, thinking about what amount to donate, but soon decided to send 300,000 won. Meanwhile, our hero thanked her and said that the nickname seemed familiar, which made the girl happy. In the chat, they jokingly suggested he end the stream with a backflip, but the guy actually did it. But it didn't kick him out of the game, as he expected. Apparently it was due to the optimization of the capsule. The young man didn't expect such a turn of events, but despite this, he didn't get confused and still ended the stream. Opening the capsule, he could finally breathe fresh air. Remembering the girl's donation from the joint stream, he thought that she was rich, but still young since she donates so much to a streamer. But he decided that it wasn't his concern, and as a streamer, he would just accept these donations. At the same time, the girl was happily lying on the floor, remembering the recent stream. However, then she thought that she shouldn't waste time and went to make a clip. Choosing music for the clip, she was completely immersed in work. While the girl was doing this, a happy smile shone on her face. The next day, early in the morning, our hero received a call from his friend and manager Kim. As it turned out, he was calling about that editor girl, Jia. The brown-haired man wrote her a comment with an offer of cooperation, but she didn't answer, and her profile on Tribe was closed. So Kim asked our hero to talk to her during the next donation. However, the young man refused, and after a short conversation, they ended the call. Deciding to get some fresh air, the guy went to take out the trash. Our hero was calmly walking down the street, thinking about his own things. Suddenly, right in front of him, a door opens, knocking him off his feet. The girl immediately began to apologize and wanted to help, but the guy said that he was fine and she shouldn't worry. Seeing his face, The girl dropped her phone in shock. Yu was puzzled and asked if she was okay. But not hearing an answer, he said goodbye and left. After the guy threw out the trash, Kim called him again and shared the news. As it turned out, a new video about our hero was released. The brown-haired man said that the video was just uploaded, and it already has more than 3,000 views and 100 comments. It seems that at this rate the video will become very popular, but the young man seemed not to care. As soon as Yu finished the call, he was called by that same girl he had recently bumped into. At first, our hero thought that he had lost something, but the girl unexpectedly handed him a notebook. As it turned out, she wanted to get his autograph. The guy was stunned, but then guessed that she watches his streams. He was very surprised to see a fan right near his house. Nevertheless, he decided to sign her notebook and asked her name. Hearing her name, our hero suddenly stopped because it seemed familiar to him. Looking at the guy with innocent eyes, she introduced herself as Seo Ji-ah. After a while, they were sitting in a cafe, but Kim was with them too. He, as a good manager, tried to maintain a positive mood of the conversation. Kim said that he just wanted to meet her, and the girl asked why he needed this. Unexpectedly, the brown-haired man took out a bunch of papers from his briefcase, and handing over a pen, he offered the girl a job, and our hero was surprised when he had managed to prepare everything. But Jia hesitated, and Kim, noticing this, began to pressure. He said that with the created and uploaded videos of the girl featuring our hero, there are some problems with monetization. He mentioned copyrights and other things, but the girl said offendedly that she donated to our hero. She also made videos for herself, not for profit, so she didn't take a penny, which finally parried Kim's attack. But he quickly began to make excuses, saying that if they make videos together, then money will flow like a river. But the girl apparently wasn't interested in this, which left the brown-haired man stunned, but he guessed that profit wasn't her goal. Looking at Jia, he wondered what her motivation was for making videos, and it seems he managed to understand. He decided to take a risk and said that our hero needs the help of an editor, and not just anyone, but Seo Jia specifically. Hearing his words, the girl became a little shy, but still asked again. At this moment, Kim realized that his words had caught her, and in order to convince her even more, he brought our hero into the conversation. Hearing that they needed her help, she felt joy, because for a long time she hadn't felt that someone needed her. She became even more embarrassed and said she needed time to think, and Kim realized he had caught her interest. Suddenly, the girl's expression became serious, and she said there was one problem. It turned out that in the company where the girl works, double contracts are prohibited. To become an official editor in their team, she would need to quit her previous job. But she also needs something to live on. The girl was uncomfortable, but she continued and stated that she couldn't rely only on income from videos, as it's very risky. Our hero has been streaming for only a week. He can't even treat Kim to a beer, and accepting an editor with a fixed salary also carries risks for him. He decided to persuade his manager to think a little more about the girl's offer. But Kim's face didn't express any concern at all, and he informed the guys about a very interesting letter. The punk company sent Yu a contract, which also specified payment for the editor's services. The letter from the company surprised the guy. After studying the new offer, the girl agreed to become their new editor, which pleased the guys. Looking at the girl, Yu thought that she wasn't against signing the contract from the very beginning. From her look, it was clear that she was already tired of her previous job. Signing the papers, Jia was told her basic salary of 25 million won per year, and an additional 40% of income from videos on AllTube. After finishing discussing business, the guys started saying goodbye, and Kim promised the girl that he would call her as soon as he gets an answer from the company. Here the girl asked what would happen to her videos on AllTube, and the man replied that they would probably need to be re-uploaded to the official channel. After saying goodbye to the girl, Yu asked his manager if he had deceived her with a contract from such a large company. But Kim wasn't lying at all, and our hero was very surprised by this. The man himself was shocked that the punk company was offering cooperation, and now the guy only needs to put his signature. He was willing to sign all the papers. While they were walking, colleagues discussed Jia. As it turned out, she fully corresponded to her description. Meticulous and straightforward. The man also thought that since she's a fan of the young man, it would be very easy to convince her. But Yu replied that being a fan and working with an idol are two different things, and Kim remembered that she donated such huge sums, and this can be counted as a show of sympathy. But in real life, the girl turned out to be a bit colder. At this time, Jia herself returned home and, taking off all her outerwear, rushed under the blanket in bed. Already lying there, she was catching her breath because she had just met her idol and became his editor. The girl couldn't believe that she had finally managed to escape from that nightmare. At her previous job, the girl was treated as nothing because she had just graduated from college, and they pressured her that if she leaves them, she won't be welcomed anywhere else like here. The ray of light in her life was her audience and streamer Yu, who appreciated her for her worth. Coming home, our hero was going to immediately start streaming and set up his broadcast launch schedule. Sitting in the capsule, the guy saw a message from his new editor. The girl had already sent him a file with a musical intro, which surprised him because they had recently parted ways. Our hero became curious about how she did everything so quickly. The girl explained that she had been working on it not in one sitting, but in her free time from editing. Yu thanked the girl and promised that he would use her work in the right place. This made Jia smile. People in various places received a notification about the beginning of Almond's stream, and many were very happy about it. Entering the stream, in the chat, they noticed the appearance of an intro for the streamer and that this style is very similar to Jia's. Greeting everyone! The guy suggested immediately entering the game, and he found himself in the Lord's Fortress, from where he last exited. Before going to report on the completion of the task, our hero decided that it would be fair for him to loot cool things in this fortress, since he cleared it alone. Entering one of the rooms, the guy found 3 cool bows, and together with the chat, began to choose which one to upgrade to. Walking around the castle more, Yu found a chest filled with gold. Looking for something else to profit from, the young man discovered very excellent clothes. Updating his inventory and weapons, the guy complained that he couldn't take more due to the limited weight limit. Now our hero won't die just like that, and with a good mood, he went to complete the task. Arriving at the castle, Emilia noticed him on the way and called out to the young archer. She was surprised that he returned so quickly, but the guy said that he returned to report on the completion of her task. Getting rid of the maid, the lady led him to a place where they would be hidden from prying ears and eyes. The girl was tense that our hero returned so quickly, and she decided that he had already changed his mind. But Yu refuted her words and stated that he had successfully completed the task. Emilia couldn't believe this, because only 2 days had passed since she assigned him this task. Thinking about her words, the guy began to count that 1 day was spent on the road, half of another day was spent on preparation, and the second half on the raid. The girl still couldn't believe that the archer completed this task so quickly, but then she was caught by the word raid. She asked our hero what he meant by this word because she only asked him for 1 kill. The guy felt awkward and explained to Emilia that the castle's defense was quite serious and therefore he had to kill everyone there. Processing the information she just received, the lady was greatly shocked. But quickly regaining control of her emotions, she returned to a normal state, while people in the chat laughed at her reaction. The girl asked our hero if she had heard correctly, to which he positively replied. The lady was impressed by the guy and his feat. He was beautiful in her eyes, but Yu himself didn't understand anything. A moment later, she announced that they couldn't delay and needed to immediately go to Talleyrand's castle to free the oppressed people. Asking the coachman to bring the carriage, she explained to our hero that they needed to arrive at the place before other noble families. Soon after, Emilia was already sitting in the carriage, but noticing that our hero was standing still, she called out to him. She smiled brightly and invited our hero to sit with her, as she had accumulated many questions. On the way, the lady asked our hero how he could be so powerful since he managed to capture an impregnable castle alone. The young man smiled shyly, replying that she was flattering him. But she was adamant, repeating her words and adding that she had seen many knights, but they all pale in comparison to our hero. When the guy replied that he was very skilled in archery, this surprised her again. She was amazed, but still couldn't believe that a castle could be captured with a bow. They continued to talk, and suddenly Emilia asked if Yu would like to become a knight. She tried to convince him and offered to manage Talleyrand's castle. This scene shocked people in the chat, but our hero calmly and tactfully declined the offer. Suddenly, the girl announced that her father would like to meet the young man and invited him to a dinner party. The brunette wanted to say something, but the girl unexpectedly covered his mouth with her finger and shyly said not to pay attention. A moment later, she ran out of the carriage, as they had already arrived, and the guy along with the chat were left in complete shock. Meanwhile, peasants were cleaning up trash in the inner courtyard of the castle. Suddenly, at the entrance appeared a group of unknown people whom they called out to. Among the arrivals were our hero and Lady Emilia with her retinue, and approaching closer, they introduced themselves to the peasants. Hearing that they were from the Janare family, people didn't believe them much and were cautious. The castle residents didn't trust foreigners and were already thinking of driving them away, but immediately realized that without them, great misfortunes might befall the castle and its inhabitants. You, following Amelia, noticed the behavior of the people. After their tyrant lord, they showed little friendliness and trust to anyone. Approaching Talleyrand's banner, the girl together with the young archer grandly tore it off the castle wall. Immediately, Lady Amelia's warriors who were above lowered her family's banner, which meant a change of the castle's lord. People immediately began to discuss the change of their lord. Some were disappointed, others were happy for the lady from the Janneret family, and others didn't care because in their opinion all nobles are the same. The brunette didn't understand the girl's actions. It seemed abnormal to him to leave everything as it is. Amelia didn't understand the essence of the question, and Yu pointed to the heated discussion of the residents and explained, "Shouldn't people know who they now serve?" The lady wasn't worried about this. She explained that over time people will get used to everything themselves. At this time in the chat, they admired the quality and grandeur of the cutscene they were now seeing. After a week of the Janneret family's rule, the inhabitants of this castle could now pay off their debts with their honest work, and additionally they were allowed to take a certain amount of money for living. The result of these reforms was that the territory of this castle began to slowly come to life, thanks to the growth of the workforce. Our hero stood and watched the life of this castle from the window, while viewers in the chat joked about his delay in this castle. In their opinion, Yu decided to become the new lord. Amelia approached from behind, who had finally found the archer. Stream viewers noticed that now a new unusual atmosphere was hovering between the guy and the girl. As it turned out, she came to remind about tomorrow's meeting with the Count, but the guy smiled and replied that he remembers about it. The chat was delighted with this scene, and Yu thought that it turned out to be quite a sweet, happy ending. But suddenly, from outside came the sound of a horn, which alarmed the couple. As it turned out, outside the castle gathered Talleyrand's allied troops who wanted to recapture the castle. And our couple was already on the castle walls, observing this picture of the upcoming war. Unexpectedly, Yu stated that he would handle this situation and win the war. Hearing his words, Amelia took his hands and prayed, and also asked him to be careful. The banners of the Janneret family fluttered in the wind under the pale rays of the sun. Among the numerous army, Romus gathered his squad of mercenaries and delivered a speech before the battle. Raising his sword, he called his soldiers to battle in a loud voice, and his speech was full of emotions to inspire and raise the fighting spirit of the warriors. When the speech was over, the mercenaries burst into joyful cries, full of determination to give their lives on the battlefield for their comrades. And our hero, just serenely, raised his eyes and met Amelia's gaze, which was shining with hope. After this, determination ignited in his eyes, and he went into battle.